So we obviously knew that it would be controversial when we announced it. I mean, you for reasonable business reasons, you do buy the property quietly. And we said this is a group of American investors buying it as a long-term holding, which is all true. And then if you propose to come to a community and say we're going to build a major new city and a major new advanced manufacturing zone, obviously, and particularly if you're coming in as an outsider, people have concerns, and we knew that would be the case. We knew that it would be controversial. I think that there's also a really interesting timing component to this, where I want to say I've been talking about abundance since 2016. And so what happened in some sense is there was a component locally here where people got to know us. They realized that we are not here to just do something for a year and then leave. We actually committed. We actually know what we're doing. We can actually bring the companies. We can actually bring the capital. So that's what's happened at the very local level. But then at the national level, obviously the vibe has shifted very profoundly in the last 2.5 years. And in some sense, what we said we're building hasn't changed. I mean, if you look at what we said the first time that we came out, we said, we want to build a major new city and bring a bunch of employers here, particularly in advanced manufacturing and defense. Day one is what we've said. But we were so, I think as a country and particularly as a state, we were so caught up in this no growth mindset and in this zero sum mentality for such a long time that we kind of, when we introduced the project in late 23, mid 23, we were still caught at the ending of it, and that's very profoundly shifted. And it's shifted in a really bipartisan way, right? I mean, you have. My perspective on this has been that when the left and the right agree on something, there's not a lot that they agree on, but when they do, there's normally a deep, profound truth at work. And so when you look at Ezra Klein on the one hand writing about abundance, and Mark Andreessen writing about it's time to build, and Tyler Cowen speaking about state capacity, and Yoni Applebaum and a lot of other people, the fact that all of these people are saying something very, very similar in different ways means that there is a deep underlying truth at work, which is we deindustrialized the country for 50 years and we completely forgot how to build things. And that has decimated the middle class, made the country unable to produce the very basic things we need. I think one of my colleagues put it the other way, and he said something like, "You're not a superpower if you can't make it. If you can't make anything, you just outsourcing customer to someone else, basically."
Yeah.
And all of that is very quickly coming back, and we are basically at the heart of all of these trends, which is what's happened over the last few months.
I mean, like you said, the climate has shifted. I remember when this got announced, and there was a feeling, at least on me, you know, I know a lot of the people who are invested and obviously like pro the idea. It felt kind of like hopeless to me in some ways, because I just thought you would get so much pushback against the optics of some of this. And then I just thought, it's like, well, good luck anyway, even if, you know what I mean? Even if everybody was okay with it. Like I tweet about the California high-speed rail all the time. It seems like even when we're trying to do something, we can't actually do it. And so, yeah, I just felt like you're battling California as a thing anyway.
Yeah, I mean, my kind of original founding thesis here in 2016 was that the situation in California would get worse until it got better. And so when I looked at the structural forces that were making it impossible to build here, my sense was basically this was the state for a century, this was the state that could build anything, right? This was the optimistic place in California, in the country. We could build factories, we built these amazing public works. The Golden Gate Bridge was built in 4 years. We built the Golden Gate Bridge in 4 years, and then we were so excited about it that to celebrate it, we built Treasure Island. We built a 400-acre artificial island in the middle of the bay, and we did that in like 3 years to celebrate the completion of the Golden Gate Bridge.
Well, and we've talked about it. Even just San Francisco and Los Angeles, two of the world's most iconic and productive cities, have not been around that long.
Exactly. Anyway, there's photos. There's photos of, not photos even. There's drawings of San Francisco before settlement, and you look at those pictures. they look almost identical to photos of the site. I mean, where we're sitting right now is de facto it's a quasi peninsula. You have these windswept hills with grasslands on them, and it's surrounded by water on three sides. You look at original pictures of San Francisco, kind of from an Oakland perspective, it looks almost exactly the same. You look at the pictures of people laying down and building Golden Gate Park. Golden Gate Park used to be sand dunes. There's literally photos of people with horses preparing Golden Gate Park to become a park, and they terraformed that whole place. The whole western side of San Francisco was sand dunes. And this was all like, what, 100 years ago, basically? And so we've known how to do this. We just kind of forgot. And if I oversimplify, we basically started passing some well-intentioned environmental laws in the 70s, and we just kept adding for 50 years. And it's, I say, having a glass of wine or two is a pretty good idea. Having 50 is not such a good idea. And that's kind of what we've did. Like, all of these policies are generally well-intentioned, but we've just completely tied ourselves in knots, unable to build anything. And high-speed rail is a prime example of that. Now, my sense was that it would get worse, but it would get so bad that it would inspire a counter movement. And I think abundance is basically that. I mean, in 2016, it was very clear that under the current doctrine, it would be challenging to build this. But my sense is, at some point, people get fed up with their kids moving to Texas. At some point, people get fed up with having a 2-hour commute because you can't build a factory in Solano County.
Well, people love California. They want to live.
They want to live here, and they want to believe in it.
Yeah.
And I think, generally speaking, on most of these big social issues, we kind of overshoot and then we come back. And that was my theory of the case in 2016. And it's been satisfying to kind of see it play out over the last 2 years with everyone now suddenly talking about building.
It is funny because you and I met about like 2 years ago. And then, yeah, I mean, I've just seen this whole, when I first started coming here, it was still, it looked like politicians were going to try to do their best to block you guys from allowing this to happen. And then now, I mean, like you're talking about with the abundance movement and everything, it seems sort of obvious. When I first started coming here, I thought this was like the last great test for California, because I could see the optics part of rich people taking over thing. We don't trust them. That I felt like was against you. However, the other argument was like, okay, well, if the world's wealthiest, apparently most powerful people can acquire if they can build a city in California in 2023, then like it's done. You know, like if you have all sort of, not like limitless resources, but if you have this much of a push and you can't build something new, then like it's just never going to happen again. And so I always felt like this was this grand experiment to see where the will actually was at.
100%. I mean, I think that kind of two levels to the answer. I think the first one is, and people look kind of, the community has recognized it. Who would you rather have built a city? A real estate developer or a private equity firm who's going to come in and need a bunch of dividends in 7 years and then toss it and sell it to someone else and disappear, who has no incentive to do it right and who has no incentive to bring in employers? Or do you want it backed by a bunch of people who care about it for reasons other than money and who have a 40-year horizon and who can actually do it right? And who, by virtue of being in the tech and manufacturing ecosystem, can actually help bring companies here. And that's what we've basically said, and people have seen that. And by the way, most of the fantastic American cities, or many of them, were basically founded by wealthy families who decided to do it, who had care about architecture, for example, for reasons beyond money, right? Like people complain about architecture in American subdivisions. They're like, oh, this is bland and you shouldn't have some nameless corporation own it. Well, again, do you want a private equity firm or do you want basically a group of people who really care about it, both at the team and at the investor level?